Hello again, Mavericks, and welcome out to another market roundup. This is Ankit here, and let's begin a market coverage. It's a Monday, April the 11th. Hope everyone's doing well and I had a good start the week. So let's get into today's market price action. Clearly, markets are off to a bit of a negative start. So let's get down to it and do a quick market analysis. So, looking at the markets today, again, we are at this point where we could be testing some actually some good support level where if it actually breaks down further, we could see some of the negativity returns back to the market. So just in hindsight, if you take a look at the S&P chart, we had made a massive recovery back in March 14th lows. And after that, you can see that we have kind of struggled to stay positive. But one of the things we talked about was that how things have been different from below the 20 to 50 day moving average to now being above the 20 to 50 day moving average. So we started off this day today, and again, we clearly gapped lower, and we actually closed at the lows of the day today. So clearly, this is not a good candle that you want to see. But at the same point, we actually need to acknowledge that we are right at this prior resistance, which is now the support. So we are actually a little bit below for the 20 50 day moving average, but we are still at this point. So if this continues to deteriorate further, I think there could be a further downside in the markets. Again, my idea for or an outlook for the markets was not as bearish, but again, if the markets start to give up these levels, and then again we will have to adjust our outlook. But so far, not a good start across the board. We actually saw a very similar performance. S&P was down 1.72%. World markets are down 1.34%. Cryptos continue to slide, down 6.26%. We have oil being down as well. Again, oil seems like the oil long trade is over now because we are seeing back-to-back weakness in the oil. So the only thing that was positive here was the gold, but overall, pretty much pain across the board. So world markets, with the chart looks very similar. Again, we're seeing relative strength. If you take a look at the S&P chart, we are still at that the point where it's right at the prior resistance, now the support. But outside of that, if you take a look at the world market world stock index, we are actually below that level. We actually just broke below the 20 the 50 the moving average. And as we take a look at the crypto world, the crypto world's actually given up the 50 the moving average as well. So we're certainly not at a good point as we saw that rally mid-March to now. Hey, we're almost giving up more than 50% of those gains. So I think that this week will definitely be more of a crucial week to see where we end, where we find some support, or do we accelerate from here. So the market outlook is down to -1, but I think if it breaks lower, I'll have to turn that into a -2. Clearly, the momentum for the short term is to the downside, but if we just take a look at these levels, again, we did make a higher high. So we continue to make a lower high with a lower low. This was a higher high. And again, this retracement could turn into a buying opportunity, but so far, we are not really seeing that. So this leaves traders a bit more on the sideline or a bit more unclear about the outlook, where the market wants to go. But we'll take a look at the charts. We'll take a look at all the other components that could make a difference. Now, this week is a busy week when it comes to news event. We have three central banks that will be on the docket. RBNZ tomorrow night, Bank of Canada on a Wednesday, and we have the ECB on a Thursday. So this is a good week if you're taking a look at news events or trading around the news events, because we get the catalyst from it. Also notice, we will have the Bank of Canada has now, if you look at the Forex Factory now, it will show that they're expected to raise by 50 basis points. So this will be another important one to keep an eye on outside of the market volatility. So let's do a quick currency analysis and see where things are from a technical standpoint. So crypto markets, again, the momentum has been on the downside, and we are continuing to see that slide here. So far, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash. Again, there's a pain across the board. We definitely have bigger numbers out of Solana and Cardano, but again, those numbers fluctuate quite a bit. They could be up 20% and then they're down 10%. But if you take a look at the main coins, like the Ethereum is down 6%. This was really looking good overall, but we are now actually pulling back. So we'll have to see where things kind of go, but looks like there's pain across the board. So here we are with the currency outlook and our currency performance for the day, and we continue to see that slide of the yen. Again, our call initially for the week was the weaker yen, so it seems like that trade is continuing to work. And again, nothing to compare to the market volatility. We are continuing to see relative weakness in the yen. The dollar continues to climb, so we have to now take a look at and see if the dollar is ready to break out or otherwise. Swiss franc was a bit of a surprise out of all the currencies. It was up 0.70%, but again, this is where we talk about taking a look at trend score and velocity scores. Clearly, velocity was on the upside on the Swiss franc, so I know some traders caught a good trade on the Swiss franc to the upside, while the other trades are pretty much flat. Again, this is an important week, and you have to keep the powder dry, especially for those news events that's upcoming on the docket. We have euro and pound showing a bit more strength, and then CAD clearly is not doing anything so far today. It's down slightly. Aussie is slowly giving up its momentum here, and Kiwi was mostly flat. So again, we'll probably see more of that percentage change as we get through those news events, especially with the RBNZ tomorrow and then the CAD on Wednesday. So a lot of things to keep an eye out. But as far as the velocity score goes, again, right now, cryptocurrency is staying at a -3 across the board. So no real sign for a reversal, but continues to get hammered down. The yen stays at -2. We have the Aussie and CAD slightly negative, but we'll have to see where they go this week. +2 on euro and pound, and dollar and Swiss franc stays +3. So at least we are seeing a little bit more movement, especially if you pair dollar against the yen and the dollar against or the Swiss franc against the yen. There was a decent move. Outside of that, we had the euro that took the charge a little bit there, but it was an interesting day today because it was really moving along with the overall trends, but not as much based on what happened in the markets today. So let's take a look at possible trades for the day, see what's really on the docket tomorrow, and where we need to put our focus. So let's just jump into trading view. So right now, what we're noticing is we're noticing a bit of a slowdown in that momentum. Again, Aussie, Kiwi, CAD, they all have done really well in the past month or so. We're noticing that's changing a little bit here. So a bit of a rotation taking place, and if we take a look at the currency baskets, we'll notice that the Kiwi on a 4-hour chart, the trend is start to kind of get a bit more on the negative side here. Consolidation a little bit here, but we'll see with if there's any sort of more renewed interest after this the RBNC press conference. Aussie, same thing, 4-hour chart. Even though on the trend score we still like it, but again, if you look at the momentum, look at the velocity is to the downside. So it's not really there for the longs. Maybe we can take a look at the short side, but definitely not the right timing to enter longs. Now, Canadian dollar again is another one that we are all paying attention to for Wednesday. But looking into it as the momentum going into the event, we are actually just stuck in the sideways trend here. So sometimes we see a run up or a run down ahead of the news event, and sometimes we just stay flat until the event. So we'll have to see if the CAD comes in play. I still like CAD to the upside, but we'll have to pretty much play the markets that's in front of us. We see a bit of a relief in the pound and the euro. Overall, their trend score was pretty weak, but notice that we're seeing a rotation there. Even though the strong trending currency, the velocity is moving lower, and in a weaker trend score currencies like euro and pound, the velocity is a bit more on the upside. So we're seeing a little bit of rotation there. The Swiss franc was really the surprise, but again, overall, you can see we slowly was climbing up, and then boom, we got this last 8 hours been pretty strong to the upside. But I realized that as soon as we get towards that resistance, we'll start to find a bit more stall here. But at this point, I think it could easily get towards that resistance before it find a bit more of the hesitation to go higher. Now the yen, and again, yen is clearly getting back to the lows or breaking below that level here. But notice we got a bit of a rally towards the end of the day. This could be just related to the equity markets closing really weak. So maybe in the next 24 hours we could see a bit of a rally in the yen based on the market close today. So far, if you just look at the momentum score or the velocity score, velocity score is trying to pick up a little bit in the short term. So if you're looking for entering yen trades, I think we have to wait. This already started off the negative note here, so it's an easy target for the yen to get run up a little bit before it decides to turn lower again. So the important one to pay attention to right now is the dollar. So dollar, we talked about it. We are back at the resistance level. Is it ready to run yet? And I always have this question, say, okay, should I wait for this breakout to take place, or should I just enter upon initial entry? So this is where you have to look at the whole pattern and say how strong is that resistance. At this point, you can see that this is a strong resistance point. We rallied and we backed off. We rallied and we backed off. So here we are. We are at the resistance. If you look at the shorter term charts, we probably would see that we are staying strong, keeping up with that level. But as you take a look at the longer term, we are just haven't cleared that. So I want to see to see this clear first before I would jump in. But it definitely looks interesting here. But there's a couple of things that we need to pay attention to. So let's take a look at our schedule for tomorrow. And tomorrow, particularly in the morning, we have the US CPI figures. So again, the inflation figures are important, as everybody is worried about inflation, and this is what's really driving the policies, the monetary policies. And if you take a look at what's happening in the yields and the bond market, so if you look at the yields continue to rise, and this is again what's causing one of those headwinds in the markets. Markets doesn't like when this continue to shoot up, and there are times when it pays attention to it. There's times where it ignores it. But so maybe we're probably seeing a run up ahead of the inflation figures tomorrow. And a lot of times I won't be surprised that we start to pull back in the yields after the inflation figures comes out. It's pretty much going in strong into the event. So buy the rumor or sell the news. And right now, the bond market is kind of doing the exact same thing. If you take a look at it here, making another new low at 123. So we have taken a big push down in these two areas. And again, that's what's really causing the headwinds in the market. So can we find a bit of a reprieve or a bit of a rally after the inflation figures? We could see that. I won't be surprised if we do, if we actually see a bit of a reversal after that tomorrow. And again, if the number comes out hot, it might stay strong. But if the numbers are more in line with expectation, no surprises there, we'll start to see a bit of a backing that off here. Again, this whole chart really reminds me of what we were seeing last year. Again, 2021, early last year. Remember, this whole inflation was really the big thing at that time, this rising yields. So we actually just continue moving lower and lower. So we're actually making that big move in February, March, and by the April we came along, we pretty much went sideways before we start to rally. Are we about to see that again? We'll have to see. But it's actually pretty similar to what we saw last year, where early in the year we started to see those yields push up higher. Again, if I take a look at this chart here, you'll see we started to push higher and higher. February was higher. We made another high in March, and we didn't really back off. It started to back off like May and June. Could we see that again? We could. So this is where we had to pay attention to all the factors that are they're affecting the markets here, and one of the headwinds are really the 10-year yields, and we could actually see that if you take a look at the Nasdaq. Again, Nasdaq is more sensitive to rising yields, and you can see that the Nasdaq was a lot more terrible today. It was down 2.3%, while the S&P was down 1.72%. But then small caps were only down 0.69%. Remember last year, what we saw in the small caps were pretty much, if you look at the daily chart, around that whole March and April, it can just stay sideways. But where if you take a look at the Nasdaq was more of nervous about that, and we early in the year we saw a bit of a pullbacks, and then until the yields start to back off, and then the Nasdaq took off. So, are we in it for that again? We'll have to see. But you have to be prepared for both case scenarios. This could be just either a bull trap or a bear trap. I mean, depending on where you're at. I mean, at this point, this was a very impressive rally. But at this point, we could get some shorts getting triggered in, and we start to see a market go higher, or maybe that was just a high, and the market goes back lower. So we are pretty much at the midpoint here on the S&P. So we want to use S&P as our example here to see where the market goes. So this is an important level that we need to pay attention to. So now let's talk about trades. What things are looking decent out there as far as the trades goes? Again, we're looking at the Kiwi and the Canadian dollar, and also we're paying attention to the dollar here. So dollar yen continues to push higher. I think we talk about this. We cover a lot of these yen crosses in the currency room, and you can see we already broken out here. So at this point, this was a very crucial, important level right here, and then it seems like we're all pushing to new highs. So it seems like as long as the yields stay positive, it seems like that trade will continue to push higher. But based on that, we had trades like CAD yen that we were actually watching, and the CAD yen. Let's see how this one's looking here. So this one seems like it's in this little ascending triangle here. We didn't really close on the highs over there, but that was again primarily because the CAD wasn't really showing that strength. It was mostly that move came from the yen. So a lot of the yen crosses, you'll notice they are showing good gains, but most of those gains came from the strength in the yen. So could we see a further continuation of that? I think we could see a bit of a short-term pause as the market really closed negative today. But again, that trade just still continue to give us good trades, good returns. So in the short term, the velocity seems to be pulling back a little bit, so we want to see for the pullbacks to complete before we want to jump back on. So most of the trades that we will be taking this is tomorrow, the RBNZ, and then Wednesday is the Bank of Canada. For that, again, we can continue to pay attention to some of the crosses, like Kiwi CAD. I think I talked about Kiwi CAD in the currency room, and that one, you can see we actually did bounce back once again off this level here. But this time, if this is just a little bit of rally, then I like this on a further short here. But again, for that, we have to probably wait till the RBNC tomorrow to see where the Kiwi goes. But Kiwi has definitely underperformed across. And we can also take a look at Aussie Kiwi. And right now, it seems like Aussie Kiwi is also kind of flatlining a little bit here, which means that the Aussie and Kiwi, there's not a whole lot of divergence taking place. So we can also take a look at Aussie against the CAD as well. Again, you can see that we are slowly moving lower. So what we are really looking for is catalyst, and catalysts are probably be tomorrow and Wednesday. So we want to keep the powder dry until that comes up on the horizon, and keep your keep your watch list ready and see which currency is really ready to pair it with. When we're expecting a bigger move, I think it could go either way. You have to really look at it. What's your outlook, and then start looking for trades accordingly. And until then, I think it's better to just let the market do its thing, be on the sideline, and just jump in when you see things move. Swiss franc again. I know Swiss franc was the question today, but I think maybe for the short term we'll see a bit of a consolidation happening here. So we'll be more active tomorrow. Not really looking for a lot of trades overnight. We already know that markets closed lower, so we'll probably see negative price pressure overnight, which means that I'm not really looking for the yen. I think yen could really take a little bit of a pause here, so maybe we'll start to see some short-term pullbacks in yen crosses, and then we'll see tomorrow where the market goes, and then tomorrow night for the RBNC. So that's all for now, and again, keep an eye on the markets. As a trader, you always want to be on the lookout and looking for the possible trades. And again, make sure you're following your plan. Our plan is really to look around those news events, so that's where we will be active. And again, tomorrow if you're looking for a trade, I think the first one you have to pay attention to is a US CPI. I think this will be important, and you have to watch the equity market price action, see where things goes, and also keep an eye on the dollar as well. Since the dollar is right at the resistance level, that's where the dollar could either try to push higher, break out of that resistance, or start to make a bit of a short-term reversal. So for that, we have to wait till tomorrow.